Hello, Tungsten Miner here. Last time I said I would make the next video when I was done with the house. Well, I'm done with the house. At least I've got the overall structure finished, and now I've moved on to the stage of filling in some of the architectural details. So as you can see, it's starting to get dark, and I actually did that on purpose so that we can see some of the beginnings of that architectural detail I was talking about, starting with some of the lighting. Now, Chisels and Bits allows you to use glowstone as part of your constructions, and it does create light. So as you can see, I've made some little lanterns out of Chisels and Bits. It's basically just the same black granite that I've been using for simulating kind of the wrought iron, and then just filled in the middle with basically what's just some glowstone that has been through the chisel mod. Namely I don't have it on me, the chisel that allows you to change textures. So I didn't want the standard glowstone texture. I wanted one that was a little bit more muted. So that's what we have here. Now, it's important to note that by default, Chisel and Bits will make blocks glow, but they'll be in proportion, or at least roughly in proportion, to the amount of glowstone that takes up the entire unit. So obviously, this is much, much smaller than a 1 meter cubed block, and therefore would have a much smaller light level than 15. So I've gone into the settings and I've changed that to make it considerably brighter, because I don't want to have to use a lot of glowstone to get the same brightness. But now, as you can see, I've got these nice carriage lanterns all the way around the courtyard. Speaking of carriage, you can notice that I've also replaced the carriage doors. As I mentioned last time, the carriage doors were a little bit glitchy in this version, and the mod author had decided that he wasn't going to continue to support 1.10.2, so I was kind of faced with a difficult choice. That I really liked those doors, and I love Malace's doors mod in general, but they're just really super glitchy, and I didn't have another option as far as how to deal with that in a good way. So I went back to the drawing board, tore them all out, and this is what I've come up with. So as you can see here, I've taken a little bit of kind of architectural decoration elements, at least inspiration from Frank Lloyd Wright. There's a number of buildings where he has something kind of similar to that. And I just did a lot of looking around at different doors on the web, and specifically looking at large, grand buildings, columns and so on, and tried to figure out how they make their doors look reasonable on a very large wall, right? So this wall is like 8 meters tall. And one of the tricks that they use a lot is that they'll have the doors be regular sized doors, but the paneling around the door will make it so that the door itself seems bigger than it really is. So this looks like a 3 meter tall by 2 meter wide door, roughly the same proportions as an ordinary door. But in fact, of course, the doors are smaller, and that's just paneling at the top. But it creates the overall visual impression of a much larger unit, especially when seen from far away. So it looks like a door that proportionately fills the space. And then, of course, making the door and the archway unit itself take up a large percentage of the overall space also looks really pleasing. And then when you add the effect of those lanterns in next to the door, I think it actually looks really, really good. I'm really quite pleased with how it came out altogether. So walking through here, you can see I changed the backside a little bit, just to make it a little less dramatic. This is all using dark oak planking and just cyan glass, the same glass I've been using everywhere. The door element itself is 3 bits wide with 1 bit glass and 1 bit detailing in the center. And that's the same for up here as well. And then the paneling actually has got these recessed bits inside. So altogether, I think that's actually a better solution. It fits better with the Chisels and Bits theme of the whole thing. So now let me sleep so we can actually see the rest of the house. Okay, daytime again. Let me change to creative. And now, flying up above, let's get the picture of the house as a whole here. So as you could see from previous videos, I've finished making it round all the way, finished the top level and filling in the roof, getting rid of all the dirt blocks. I've put in a railing all the way around. I've added the ceilings above the top. And I've added the kind of open spaces there, and I've added some doors and glass here. So this door is using the same jungle wood and using doors from DecoCraft, actually. One of the newer versions of DecoCraft added a whole bunch of different kinds of doors. And so I just went through the Deco bench and just tried a bunch of them until I found one that I thought looked nice up here and fit with the generally open and airy sort of feeling of the top of the house here. And then added enough jungle wood around the door until it felt like a fairly convincing frame. So it's 2 bits wide here. I think it's 4 bits wide over there. But over here on this side, it's flush with the door, except a little bit of a lintel up above, and that's all. And then repeated that pattern all the way around so that I've got, on each quarter, I've basically got a door on either side of every cardinal direction. And that should make it so that it's easy to get out onto the patio area out here. I also went and added in little walls here, little half walls, and a railing. I added a railing all the way around the outside, and that was every bit as tedious as you can imagine it was, because every little one of these had to be placed one at a time. So there's, I don't know, a couple hundred of them. Let's see. The glass ceiling is just a repeat of what I did originally, so I don't need to talk about that again. On the inside here, oops, I slammed the door in my own face. I used the same kind of process that I did for all the outer circles of, getting this bottom one done first, and then using the positive chisel design to copy it up into the ceiling, and then removing the extra bits. The top here is just a 1/2 meter of limestone, supported on these pillars, added glass in all the way around. One of the things that I'm thinking I will do is add in some kind of stone wall. Yeah, so right about here you can see is the center between the 2 pillars. So I'm thinking what I'll do is add a stone wall that goes across this way and another one that goes across that way to turn every quarter into 3 different rooms. So there'll be one room that involves here, one room that's kind of in the middle, and then another room that's over there. I had finished the staircases a while ago, but now I'm finding they're actually kind of in inconvenient locations because this room is kind of wants to be a hallway underneath there, and it also wants to have the stairwell accessible. So trying to figure out the best way to do that, I think actually what I'm going to wind up doing is bringing the stairwell over here. So in this big room, as soon as you come through the doorway, I think I want to have the stairwell like right here. The problem, as you can see, is that this is a 4 meter wide section, and those are 3 meter wide stairwells. So they're going to invariably be a little weirdly off kilter if I did that. So I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to deal with that exactly. I could make the staircases a little bit bigger, I could leave them where they are, I could think of something completely different. Don't know yet. I have to think about it. I've gone around and changed the, I forget what the proper name is for that, around the edge of the ceiling there. There's a proper architectural term that's not coming to me at the moment. But I've changed them to be limestone all the way around the building so that your ceilings basically always have a 1/2 meter of limestone with that amount sticking down. So it's a full meter thick when you get down to it. Rest of this really hasn't changed apart from filling in the limestone and filling in the doors. So what I now need to think through is some of the architectural details. One of the things that I had done originally is these doors here, where I've got limestone around the edge on the outside, and then just a little bit of a bezel in on the inside, and then the same stone across the bottom to walk in. I don't know if I talked about this last time. One of the mods I've been using here is underwater utilities. And since so much of the ores and things only appear at the bottom of the ocean, I felt it was actually really important that we have some kind of mod that allows us to get down there. And I didn't want to resort to underwater breathing potions. I wanted some technological, sort of realistic sort of solution. So underwater utilities seemed like a good choice for that. Unfortunately, I'm finding that things are a little bit more buggy than I had hoped. This engine obviously has plenty of power, has lots of water and therefore could come up with steam if it needed to, and the power that's stored in it isn't being used, 0 RF per tick getting used, which means this machine thinks it's done doing whatever work it has to do. This oxygen collector doesn't have any GUI, but the oxygen tank does. So any oxygen tank that's adjacent to a collector will get filled up. But this is reporting 0 oxygen, and this tank is reporting only this much oxygen. But if I take the tank out, tooltip goes to 0. There's nothing there. There's nothing here. And yet there should be plenty of power to drive this to filling the tank further. If I put this in here, this starts sucking oxygen out of an empty tank and filling up this thing, but only part way. So things are a little goofy. I haven't filed the bug report with the mod creator yet, but I'm planning to get around to that soon, hopefully, and get to the bottom of these problems. It may be a compatibility thing, because when I tried using this on its own, just testing things out, it seemed to work fine. So I'm not quite sure what the deal is. Anyway, that's oxygen stuff. One of the architectural details, though, that I wanted to add was to think through the doorways again. Since I made such nice doorways out of the dark oak over here, I kind of wanted to follow the same pattern throughout the rest of the building. And so those birch doors aren't going to work. So instead I made this. And again, keeping with the theme of having an arch that's above, that's half height. So this is 20 pixels across. This is therefore 10 pixels high, so it matches the same pattern as those guys over there. Walking through, I've kept the flooring, I've bezeled the edge here to match the bezel in the wall, and I've bezeled the whole archway across the top to match the same bezeling that I did elsewhere. So yeah, hopefully that looks pretty convincing. If I'm not pointing it out, it doesn't stand out or seem kind of weird. It just seems like a natural sort of doorway. So I think what I'll do is use my positive chisel pattern to copy this door around and make that the standard door to get through. Over here, I had made a ramp on the other side. I wanted to see what happens if you make the ramp a bit longer. The other one had a rise to run of 1 to 1, so it was a 45-degree angle. This one I extended it to be 3 to 1, and I think I like it better, although I'm not super thrilled with the way the pattern looks. It doesn't look like one smooth contiguous chunk of gravel. It has these weird kind of moments in it where it seems to like break, and not surprisingly that's right on the edge. So I think there's just something about the gravel pattern that wants to bunch up, or it gets darker, or it does something just funny at the edge here. So I'll need to think about that too. To contain the gravel, if it is going to be a gravel walk, I wanted some kind of little wall. And so I built this to be just 8 bits, half a meter higher than whatever the slope was at that moment. And then just use the positive chisel pattern to copy that up and down. Oh, let's see what else to talk about. I think that may actually be it. Oh, these arches are the same arches that surround the doorway. So basically this is what you'd get if you took out all the wooden glass, which is actually how I made them. I went and used my positive chisel pattern to copy this top piece over here, and then brought it over here and plopped it in. Of course, it had all the wooden glass. And then I just used the chisel with this setting here to remove the same material. And then I just need to click on one piece of wood, click on one piece of glass per block, and it just yanked out all the wooden glass and leaving behind the stone. So now I've got that. And I rather like this carriage lantern thing, so I think I'm going to make some more of these and bring them all around the house. Remember, of course, that this mod pack only has mobs spawn where there's literally 0 light and where there's no exposure to the sky. And one of the interesting things about Chisels and Bits is that unless a block is completely filled in, every single bit is filled in, it's considered to be transparent. And since all of my ceilings are half a meter thick, that means the entire building is considered transparent so far as that's concerned. So if I'm not mistaken, that means even when I go inside somewhere like here, this is considered to be exposed to the sky. Whoops, that's not the button I wanted. I wanted that one. Where's the sky? Yeah, light, 15 sky. So this is definitely exposed to the sky, even though I'm inside. Anyway, that gives me that. And what else is there to talk about this time? I think that pretty much covers everything, actually. I really haven't been up to much else. It's been a lot of work to make this building. I really, really like how it came out, and I really, really like how convincingly circular Chisels and Bits allows you to make things. So, I'm going to say that's it for now. If you like the video, hit like. If you want to know when the next video is ready, in which I will probably start talking about power, go ahead and hit subscribe, and I will talk to you later.